Now, important aspect, as I said, from fourth point onwards, we try to look at the execution side. So now let's look at what are the different ways to manage the risks. Just give me a minute, I'll have a sip of water. Yeah. So now we will quickly look at what are the different ways to manage the risks. As you know, as I started the conversation with getting married, I said it's a risk, and then investing in stock market is a risk, coming to office is a risk, and then even waking up from bed is a risk. Now, as I also said, there is always a we need to really look at that there is always positiveness in the life, right? So that's where we now really look at how do we manage all these things. So let me quickly take you through again a few tips before I say anything. Let's look at how to manage the risks. So some of the important thing is whatever we identify the risks, we need to make sure that the information in the risk register is absolutely right. Though we did the brainstorm, and then we need to really look at the data is right or not. Absolutely, we need to make sure that it is right, because otherwise we would end up solving the wrong risks. Second one is we need to really look at, suppose if a risk gets materialized, how bad the impact is going to be. What does this mean is it could be a financial impact, or it could be an impact on the quality or the schedule. But however, we need to really look at whether it is going to be, if it is financial impact, whether it is going to be 10% on the budget or 50% on the budget. The reason being, obviously, we need to look at a risk as a first priority. If it is impacting 50% of my budget versus just 10% as a first priority, as I said earlier. Yeah. Now, it is, as I have been saying earlier, it is always good to be ready for any risk. So we need to have these risk strategies are also very early into the project. Now, if you remember in slide number 3 or 4, I did say that I'm going to touch upon probability and impact matrix. This is what which I said earlier. I also said I'm going to talk about the risk categories that I covered a little bit, I think some 10-15 minutes back. Let's look at probability and impact analysis now. So on the left side here, if you are looking at the screen, so these are all, let me put the pointer for you. Yeah. Oops. So this is all probability. I'm sure if you have done your engineering or even in the before engineering, you know what is probability, right? It's a likelihood of an event that might happen. And as an example, if you flip a coin, there is a probability of having heads or tails is going to be 50%, 50%. So that's probability. You can see the rounded thing here on the screen. So this is the probability. Probability is typically it's less than 1, which is 0.1 to 0.99. Versus you can also see there is something called impact. I have made it wrong. I'm sorry, I'm not making a good round here. But this is the impact. This impact I had put numbers as 0.1 to 0.9. But it's up to you. You can make 10 to 9 or 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. It's up to you. But the only thing is this side, you can see 0.9. This is the highest impact, and you can see 0.1. This is the lowest impact. It is very simple table. It's kind of matrix. You multiply 0.1 with 0.1, you get 0.01. Versus here you can see 0.9 multiplied by 0.9 here. So this is going 0.81. I'll take one more example here. 0.25, it comes as a multiplication of 4.5 and then 0.5. Now, if you are able to see the colors carefully, you can see all red here, you can see amber here, you can see green here. Again, these colors changes from organization to organization, project to project. There is nothing, nothing which you need to follow blindly. You can change according to the organization needs. So how we are going to use this, I'm going to touch upon that in the next slide. So this is what which I covered in the previous slide. So assuming that these are the typical risks, we can say that there is a probability that my team would fall sick in month of August or September, because that is kind of a rainy season in India. A lot of people might catch cold, or usually if you also look at history, some of the things like swine flu and all those things people usually tend to say during rainy season. So we can always say that probability of my team is going to fall sick is around 0.1, which is a low probability. However, if my team, everybody in the team falls sick, the impact is going to be 0.7, which is kind of a high side. Now, so you would go on and multiply these two, it will only get 0.07. So 0.07 corresponds to what is here. So it is green, so you are going to put green here. Versus, I will probably not take weather, I will take attrition. So I would say that, or you would say that there is a probability of my team members going to leave in next 3 months is going to be 0.5, which means that it's a 50-50% chances. Versus same impact as illness, if my team member is not with me in the project, so there is going to be impact on the budget or the cost, budget or the schedule or the quality. So the impact is going to 0.7. Now just need to go on and multiply, so you are going to get 0.37. So now quickly you would go on and look at your reference matrix here. You can see if you see the color. So 0.35, which is red. So you would classify this as the red. So here you can quickly say that these are all the high visible risks, or the risks that you need to do some action. The risks that you can see here in the amber, if something falls into this layer, you can always say that this is the risk. Probably, yes, they won't cause some impact to me, but I can wait for some time. Versus green, probably not much worried. So here, if I give an example again, the probability of people falling sick is only just very less. So you would not do anything. So I also said earlier saying that the building that you are sitting right now might collapse. However, are you going to run away from the building right now? Probably may not. Though I said that the reason you are still hearing this webinar because the probability of a building get collapsed is, even though I said 0.1, it's going to be 0.01 because till now the building that you sat never collapsed. So and also suppose if you are in the low seismic region, there is no way your building is going to get collapsed unless it is constructed by the bad quality. But I think the probability is very, very less. However, the impact is going to be quite high even in the scenario, right? If I say the probability of building might get collapsed 0.01 versus the impact is going to be very high. If at all it does 0.9. If we multiply these two, still I will be somewhere here. So that is the reason we were all coming to office and we were all sitting in the building, and then we were not much worried about all these things. So that's how it is. It can be done and then analyzed. So let's again, I think I also spoke about the marriage, right? So the probability of a marriage being successful, it's very difficult to say unless I meet you and then your spouse, but it's or would be rather. So it's very difficult, but however you can always look at the divorce rate in India and then come up with some probability. Let's say if I remember out of my memory, the divorce rate is I think is around 45 out of 1,000 or something. So the probability of somebody's marriage will not be successful is 0.1%. Sorry, 0.1 versus the impact. I believe personally it might cause a lot of impact. That is the reason still most of the people get married, though some people would get divorced, but I think it is still worth experimenting. Let me go to the next slide. So I believe it is clear to you. This is very important slide, qualitative risk analysis. So what we are trying to do here mainly is in the previous sections we try to identify the risks and we are slowly converting those risks into more appropriate things. So earlier assume that you have 5 risks. Now you will only worry about mainly 2 things, which is weather and attrition. Remaining risks will not be much worried because you can also say that it's kind of an 80-20 principle. To quickly take you through, there is one more thing called quantitative risk analysis. I'm not going to spend much time here because I need to spend a lot of time on the risk responses. So you have an option to take aeroplane, 2 aeroplanes. One is which costs you around 9,000 rupees. On time is 90%. If you are late to that particular city, you are going from let's say Bangalore to Pune, you need to end up losing around 40,000. Here the one more scenario. Ideally, it's very difficult for you to say straight away, but if I give this answer, with option A you are going to lose around 13,000, and with option B you are going to lose around 15,000. So obviously we are going to go with the option A because this is where you are going to lose less money. Now let me take you through how do you do the risk response planning. This is important thing. I'll explain to you with a quick example here. So the project is very simple. We need to stand on the edge of the cliff. So I took this project because I did not take an IT project because I do want you to understand the concept, and then you can go and then apply this framework into any project, not just IT but any project. So your project is very simple. You need to stand at the edge of the cliff, and then the cliff, as you see here, it's very rough, and then it's also windy. You can see this. Somebody is pushing it. Don't think that it's a manager is pushing. It's a wind is pushing. So you need to stand there, and then the wind might come and then you might fall down. And then your client says that you need to stand on the edge of the cliff, and then if you stand successfully, you would get 1,000 rupees per day. You come to cliff 8 o'clock in the morning, stand till 5 o'clock, get the 1,000 rupees, and then go home. That's the project. And if you are not successful, one thing is you will get injured, or also it might so happen that the person also might die. And second one is obviously you're not going to get that money of 1,000 rupees. Let's look at what are the different strategies which this person is going to use. First thing is you might even say that my life is more worth than 1,000 rupees, so I will not even do this. This is the however, this is also called as a limit, but however this is not the right thing to do because you will not earn any money. Suppose if you need to let's say your family is dependent on you to make sure that you get the 1,000 rupees, and then they might be waiting for you. So this is not the right thing. The second one is it's basically you see something and then you do not want to do this because it's very high risky thing. Second one is the mitigate one. This is the most sensible thing. So in mitigate, what happens is, as you can see here, you can see some net here. So you would spend some 500 rupees and then or even 2,000 rupees and then buy a net, because you need to do this for a month, let's say. You would buy a net and then you could keep it there. And then what happens is if you fall down, nothing would happen because the net is going to save you. However, I want to caution you saying that this is only going to reduce the impact, not the probability of falling down. However, mitigation can also can also be used to reduce the probability. Again, in your office you would have seen something called fire extinguishers, right? They would not reduce the probability, but they would reduce the impact. However, if you have something called fire resistant furniture, let's say fire resisting wall, I'm not sure if it is existing. I'm aware that there is a fire resistance wood. So if you buy that, then what happens is the probability of your office building or the house catching fire is very less. So you are going to reduce the probability there. So mitigation, as I said, it's going to either reduce the probability or the impact. Next one is transfer. This is kind of an easiest one. What you do is you would call a vendor and then say that I will pay you 750 rupees. You stand for me, and then you would take the 1,000 rupees from your client and pay 750 rupees to the vendor, and then you would go and then enjoy with the remaining 250 rupees. So that is the transfer. Only thing here is instead of getting 1,000 rupees, you are only getting 250 rupees, but you are kind of minimizing the risks or impact rather. So accept is you do not do anything, and then you just go and stand there. The thing is you are not spending money for the net, and you are also not spending money which you would otherwise give to the vendor. You just go and stand. You would either get 1,000 rupees or you would fall down and say that that's the end of the person. So these are the 4 categories. To make sure that you remember these things, there is a nice word called ACAT. I also said CAT as an example. I believe it's going to be really easy for you to remember. So ACAT stands for avoid, control, accept, and then transfer. Control is very similar to mitigate. So there are 2 other aspects which I would like to touch. The one is acceptance itself. There are 2 things. One is passive acceptance, which the person did earlier, did not do anything. And second one is active acceptance. And then you go on and do something called contingency planning. In your project planning, you would allocate let's say 20% of the money in case any risk gets materialized and who will use this money. That's the contingency planning. So this is the update risk register. Unfortunately, because lack of time, I'm not going to spend much here. You can, if you're interested, I can share you the PPT. You can go through this particular thing. However, just have a quick glance at the headings. So the risk event priority, whether I need to do it today or tomorrow. Who is going to really look at as the risk owner? Here it's a project manager. And then what kind of category of the risk is directional and internal? And then what kind of strategy that I need to put? And contingency reserve in case it is required. What is the money that I need to spend? And what kind of triggers and the secondary risks. So we need to really remember, you and then I can sleep, but the risk would never sleep. It is always existing in the project. It might occur at any point of time, so that you just need to remember it. Question number 3 for you. Mitigation as response strategy will always add time and earn money to the project. Mitigation as a response strategy will always add time and earn money to the project. You just need to answer quickly, true or false. Mitigation is also controlling. Next one is, as I said, 6th point and 7th point. It's more of my personal experience, not necessarily that they are universally correct, but they work for me. So let's look at. So these are the critical success factors for any risk management team. First one is organization culture. So when it's organization culture, each organization got its own culture. So some organizations, they have more risk appetite. When I say risk appetite, their ability to take the risk, versus some organizations, they will not have much of the things. What I mean